You are listening to Thank Me for My Cervix, a podcast where we talk about all things mental health with a focus in the veteran and military community. I'm your host, Marine Corps veteran Shawna Marie. And as always, you can listen to every episode live on Instagram. You can watch replays on YouTube, and you can watch or listen to the audio on Spotify. Jesus. If you do any of those, please just make sure to rate them, follow, subscribe if you're listening. That way we kind of get boosted up and more people see us. So that's always helpful. We also have t-shirts. This isn't one of them. This is like one of my hair ones, but I do have two of our t-shirts and I absolutely love them. So the link for that is in my bio. It's through Left Foot, Right Foot, and they are 100% proceeds donated to veterans in need. So it's awesome. Also, we have scheduling for March and April, and that link is also in my bio. You just can select the day. All the times will say 12 to 1, but just message me if you need to adjust that because I'm pretty flexible, and I'm just trying to get a little bit more people interviewed for the month of March, so there's not many spots left, so yes, please do that. Also, there is an Amazon link, last thing, but that one is in my Hello Shawna Marie bio. Instagram, so at Hello Shawna Marie, go to that bio, and my Amazon shop is in there. There's a podcasting section, there's fashion, all types of fun stuff, so be sure to check that out. Okay, now for today's guest. His first name is Demetrius, but you may also know him as Staff Sergeant. He's a USMC martial arts instructor, and he's also a host of Talkin Crazy Podcast. So I'm super excited to get him on, and we are going to be interviewing him today. So as soon as he requests to join, I will accept it and we'll get this going. I'm super excited. There we go. Awesome. Good morning, good afternoon, I guess now. Thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to me today.
No, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it because I have so many questions to ask you. So we're going to start with, where did you join the Marines out of, and why did you pick the Marine Corps?
Okay, hold on. Before we even get started, what's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcast with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm Demetrius Thankme4mycervix, also known as Meech Speaks. Thank you for having me on the show. Now, why did I join the military? That was the question?
Yes. Yes.
To be honest with you, I joined because there was really no other way for me. You know, for a lot of people that don't know, I was born and raised in Detroit, Michigan. I was raised in a single-parent household. My father was an alcoholic. And the problem when you have like a father that's an alcoholic or an addict in the family is that they tend to show up periodically in your life. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I was 8 years old, he sat me down, told me that I was going to be the man of the house, which is crazy to have a conversation like, you know, with an 8-year-old about that. Diabolical work. Then he would leave when I was 11, come back when I was 15, from 15, come back when I was 18. And I had to deal with that. Also dealing with being in one of the most dangerous cities of Detroit, Michigan. I mean, dangerous areas in Detroit, Michigan. You know, so the avenue of opportunities for us wasn't really a lot. It was either go to college, get a good job. And I know you've heard that one before. I could have got trapped and ended up working at a plant because that's a great job to have. You know what I mean? Or I eventually would sell drugs and end up in jail. You know what I mean? So when the recruiter found me, I actually was trying to join the Air Force. You know, I actually did not try to join the Marine Corps. I didn't even know the Marine Corps even existed. And I walked up on him, you know, and I started talking to him. He sat me down, had me take the ASVAB. And after having this whole conversation, I asked him, I'm like, yo, so like, what's the Air Force like? And like, he blasts me in the office. And he immediately like told me like, yo, like this is the Marine Corps. And I was like, all right, bet, sign me up. I just need to get out of Detroit. Like, not even about to lie. Like, I just really need to just get out of Detroit.
Yeah. Okay, so that's awesome. So you joined out of Detroit.
Yeah.
And then when you were enlisting, what was your MOS? What jobs did you select?
Initially I wanted to be crash fire rescue. Came in over contract for the field because apparently you don't get the MOS, you just get the field. And when I was at MEPS, they told me that I was going to be a mechanic. I'm like, all right, bet. And I found, yeah, wild. Not what I wanted. But I find out that I'm an HE mechanic. So I'm a 1341 heavy equipment mechanic. And for those who don't know, I fix like tractors, trams, like all diesel mechanical stuff.
Yeah, that's super. I mean, that's still super cool now because at least that would ever, if you ever wanted to transition to the civilian side, that would translate pretty well anywhere you wanted to go. So that's awesome. Where was your school?
Mine was in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri.
Oh God. Okay, so like middle of nowhere.
Horrible. Population 99.
That's probably a little bit of a shell shock going from somewhere like Detroit, Michigan, to middle of nowhere.
Yes.
A little bit of adjusting there. So did you like anything about that area? Did you take anything away from that experience there?
To be honest with you, I could honestly say no. I didn't take anything away when when you go to Missouri, it's not like, I remember getting there and I was just like, dang, man, like, what is so special about Missouri? And then it was like, well, St. Louis is up the street. And I'm like, St. Louis, ain't Nelly from St. Louis? I'm like, this can't be the same Missouri that he was talking about. This can't be it.
That's so funny. Because people actually have a misconception of a lot of the Midwest states. Like you think, oh, this big city, because I'm from Illinois. And they're like, oh, so you're from Chicago. And you're actually like, no. I'm from a population. Like, yeah. That's so funny. Okay, so where was your first duty station?
Oh, now we get to the interesting part. So my first, for real, because like once we get past Missouri, like everything else started to go up for me. And my first duty station was actually California. Camp Pendleton, California. Mm-hmm.
You were at Pendleton, so not 29 Palms.
Mm-hmm. No, I've actually never been to 29
Palms. Really? I went there once for like an IT, like a training thing, because I was in the air wing. So that's it, though. I was never stationed there, thank gosh.
I get it's okay.
Yeah, no. If you're an outdoorsy person, like if you're, I'm very much like I'll make any state like place work. I love everywhere, and I'll find something. So I actually like parts of 29 Palms, but I can see how someone who's not used to that wouldn't be like, no, thank you.
No, I try to make every state work wherever I go. Some states it's easy just to make it work. I mean, once again, you're in California, Southern California. If you can't find anything to do here, then more than likely you're a serial killer. You know what I mean? That's why you can't find anything like to do. But the one state that I just legitimately could not make work was Virginia. I swear to God, Virginia, trash. Do not recommend. They say that.
Well, I will say parts, especially military parts, there's no redeeming qualities.
No.
Virginia Beach was kind of fun.
Virginia Beach might as well be its own state.
That might true.
As well be its own, because when you get to Virginia Beach, like you see it and it's like, damn, man, like I wish all of Virginia was like this.
I know.
But it's not. They say that place is for the lovers. It's for the losers. It's for the losers.
It's they don't handle their traffic very well. But that's one thing that I didn't like about California, because I honestly was not a huge fan of California when I was living there. But I've talked about this before on the podcast too. I just it's too many people in a area. Yeah. Like I would always, no matter where you go, you're stuck in traffic. You got to plan for that. But Virginia is the same exact thing. Yeah. You're in traffic
and the thing
all the time.
About it is like, I feel like Virginia, like California's traffic, I know why we're stuck in traffic. Virginia, I never understood why we were always stuck in traffic like this.
That is such a good way to like say that, because like it definitely, Virginia traffic pisses me off more than California, because it's like I expect it. It's like, I'm in California. Okay, there's too many people here. But Virginia's not like that.
You know what I mean? Like, and then everybody's always like this, well, why don't you go to D.C.? Once again, D.C. and Virginia are still two different places. Like I live in Virginia. I would have to commute to D.C. Yeah. You know what I mean? D.C. is a completely different place than
Virginia. I love D.C.
I love
D.C. Yeah. It's historic, it's beautiful, it's well taken care of. I love it.
Yes, there's always something to do in DC.
Yeah.
Virginia, absolutely not. Get me out of there.
Absolutely. So when you were stationed in California, did you get to do like any deployments? Where else did you get to go from there?
Oh, 100%. So when I was in California, I actually was on 12 TAC 2 to Afghanistan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that was like 2012 time frame.
Okay. And you, like, kind of, what did you do there? Like, you don't have to say anything like specific, but just talk a little bit about like what your purpose was there.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate you saying, like, I ain't gotta say, like I did some, like, secret squirrel shit
Yeah.
out there. Like, no, I did not, okay? I'm a mechanic, just like what I mentioned earlier. I'm a mechanic. So when I went out there, I was a mechanic, you know?
Yeah.
So we went out there, obviously, to support maintenance for us, as far as, like, HE equipment. I was actually on Leatherneck, and Leatherneck supported all the other fobs, such as Shagazi, DeWire, Shamshir. So we were dealing with that support while still maintaining maintenance across the entire base.
Okay, yeah, and that's really important. I mean, people think when they think military, a lot of times they do think like the front, like but obviously support roles are equally as super important, and your job is cool. Yeah. So, was you always stationed at Camp Pendleton, or did you?
No, I've actually been coast to coast. So
okay, and
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You go.
From Camp Pendleton, I went over to New River, North Carolina, where I was at MWSS 272. Now I will tell you, that place is called the Untouchables. And I would tell people like, yeah, I'm going to 272. And they'd be like, yeah, the Unflushables. And I'm like, why would you say that? You know what I mean? Like, why would you tell me that? You know, so I would get there, and actually, I probably received the most opportunities that I would ever have being on that side. You know, as far as
that.
100%. Like, they sent me to the martial arts instructor trainer course. They sent me to my advanced course. Any place that they could send me, they did send me, you know. That was also where I faced my first time, like, dealing with myself on, like, on a hardship as far as, like, a deployment, though.
I really like that you got to do those types of things, because I will say one of the things that I didn't get while I was in that I wish I had is, like, I wanted to do McQuist, but I went through the advanced swim call, and it's probably all different now, mind you. I got out in 2015, so different, a little bit different time era. But I wanted to do all that fun stuff because I was such a good aircraft mechanic. The opportunities were taken away from me often because they were like, well, we need you here. And I'm like, well, I'm also like, I understand, but I have this passion. Like, I love swimming. Like, being a McQuist instructor was all I wanted. And when they afforded me the chance to do advanced swim call, I was like, okay, this is awesome. And then I did it, I accomplished it, and they were like, okay, McQuist wants you. Like, yeah, you can go. And my trainer command was like, no. No. So I didn't get to do it because my MOS would have changed. And they were just like, you're too good here. So I didn't.
I think that's like that story right there. And once again, thank you so much for sharing that, you know, but that story is something that is so common that you hear, and it's such a sad thing, dude. Like, where it's like, you join the military, you were promised all of these opportunities, these experiences, but here you are just doing a job. And your job, it almost feels like you're not in the military. It feels like you're working a fucking 9 to 5 or 5 to 9 or whatever weird hours that aviation be giving y'all. You know what I mean? And that sucks, and it's very it's I want to say demoralizing, but at the exact same time, it saps the why am I even here type of thing, you know. So I feel for you, trust me.
A lot of times in the air wing where when we were even back in garrison, like just regular day jobs, we would work 12 on, 12 off on these helicopters because they had flight hours that they wanted to maintain. There was nothing that was so severe that they needed to have families away from their homes for 12 hours a day in a regular day-to-day basis. It just did not make sense. I was just thinking of something else. I thought of another question. Sorry, hold on one second. It's gonna come back to me. Another question.
It always does. It always does.
Oh. Okay, what were we talking about right before that though too? Day-to-day, 12 hours. Okay. Well, anyway. So when you were in New River, going back and forth, tell me a little bit about your ranking up process, what it was like as you were getting like leadership roles, and how that went for you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. So, fun fact is that when I was already in Pendleton, I was in a leadership role. When I was a Lance Corporal, I was already a fire team leader. When I deployed, I had already gotten promoted to corporal, and I already started running like a section. That was preparing me when I got to North Carolina. Once I got to North Carolina, that's when I was legitimately in charge of an entire squad, and that squad made up the entire section. So I'm running this entire section by myself, and I'm doing all of this like as a corporal. Now, fun fact of the day is that I will be a corporal for the next 3 years. and which is trash. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
it is. That's
yeah,
so really, that was really common. In the air wing, you had like super high qualified lance corporals. And in the military, for people who aren't in the military that are listening, rank matters significantly, almost in all platforms. But then you can also have qualifications that make you better at your job. But even if you still have a lower rank, you aren't always granted that same respect. And this is just from when I was in. This is not necessarily across the board. So yeah, I do feel like it's like being stuck at a rank or stuck, because I was stuck at Lance Corporal too, but then I picked up Corporal Sergeant. It was like boom, boom, in the air wing, which is from when I was in actually really common. I felt like you were Lance Corporals for forever and you had all these qualifications. And then once you picked up Corporal, you were set. So yeah, I could see how, like, what was the reason? Were you looking for a certain score and not getting it? Was it super high?
cutting score. Yeah, my cutting score was very high. Like we
Yeah.
were talking about the 1800s was my cutting score. So like that was just like the time. But the problem is that I'm also receiving a lot of opportunities to be qualified in certain things. So I was at that time I was already a martial arts instructor trainer as a corporal. You know what I mean? And going to that course, I would definitely tell you going to that course, then while still being a corporal, prepared me for who I am as a leader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, granted, though, imagine seeing a corporal with a red stripe on his belt. Crazy. That's crazy work. You see what I'm saying? Like to take your blouse off, and people are like, "Who are you?" You know. But at the exact same time, they're praising me. But I'm also about to reach service limitations. You know what I mean? Because I haven't picked up sergeant yet, and I'm trying. And every time they would put me up on a meritorious board, I would lose because I had an NJP on my record.
Oh, that's.
So no matter how much good I did, I still had that NJP, and that NJP was always like this big black eye for that entire time. So that's really why it took me so long, because I would have gotten it meritoriously eventually, but I had that NJP.
Yeah. Well, what I really dislike about that is how common that is as well. That if you, because a lot of times people join the military and you are young and stupid. I still feel young and stupid sometimes. I'm like, I'm in my 30s. So they follow you. And I know so many great Marines, great people who made bad decisions one time, and then their life and career is like over.
100%. Yeah, and they never come from up under it. And I think like it's two sides to it when you talk to a Marine that's dealing with an NJP. You know what I mean? The first side is that Marine. You know what I mean? I actually do the obvious one, what everybody sees. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm pretty sure you heard that saying, you can build 1,000 bridges, but if you burn one, now you're a bridge burner. You know? And that's exactly how people are going to look at you. They're going to look at you like, well, you must be a piece of shit because you got an NJP, not realizing that I have all these other accolades. I've done all these other amazing things since the NJP, and even before, it was just a lapse in my judgment. But on the flip side to this, and I cannot stress this enough, the flip side is that you cannot act like a Marine with an NJP. Like, you cannot have the attitude of a Marine with an NJP. And a lot of people get so upset when they sit there and they say, like, oh, well, the Marine Corps fucked me. The Marine Corps, like, they constantly keep holding this shit over my head. And it's like, well, yeah, they're going to hold it over your head. You're the only one in the room with an NJP. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Like, of course, like you got to make peace with that. And that was something that I had to make peace with. When I would be on those boards and I would say, like, damn, that's fucked up that I lost. But at the exact same time, it's not fair to the person who did not get in trouble. You see what I'm saying? He didn't get in trouble. You did. You know what I mean? Like, and you gotta eat that.
You gotta hold yourself accountable.
You gotta hold yourself accountable, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people do not like to hold themselves accountable. I would always hold myself accountable walking into those boards, and I would tell people, I was like, don't nominate me, dude. Like, nominate somebody else, because they're going to see me and they're gonna be like, yeah, Thick Pen's solid, and the most I'm going to come in is second, because the person that I'm beating he doesn't have an NJP on his record. You know, what are y'all going to do? Reward me for coming back from adversity? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't get in trouble, you know? So that was one of the biggest things that I realized. But I also had to have a amazing work ethic. I had to have, like, my work ethic was crazy.
Yeah, I do feel like there is that fine line, though, because should you be awarded for the being able to turn it around and not get it, because there are the cases where the person just continues to get in trouble and is not getting their stuff together.
Yeah.
So should someone be awarded for being able to turn their stuff around? Just because someone's always been good, and there are some cases I'll add too, where people could have gotten in trouble, but their chain of command did not take the necessary steps, which is their business. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad. It's not my business. I don't care, because I am for looking out for one another if the scenario calls for it. But what if that person had gotten in trouble and now they had to come back from adversity, even though it was...
I'll do you one better. Because that was something because obviously, like, that conversation I had to have, you know what I mean? Because I was like, why do y'all keep doing this? Like, y'all keep holding this shit over my head. You have to be so undeniable that they have no choice but to pick you. That's really what it is. You have to be so undeniable that they have no choice but to pick you. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I'm walking on this board and me and you are the exact same, and the only difference is that I have an NJP, obviously they're going to pick you.
Yeah.
But if I walk on this board with qualifications that are well above everyone else on the board, I'm so undeniable they have to pick me. You see what I'm saying? Like, I was walking on these boards. I was a martial arts instructor trainer. I was a corporal. There's no other corporals in the Marine Corps that are this. You see what I'm saying? It's so undeniable that we have no choice but to pick him.
Yeah.
This guy's running morning PT. This guy just ran a battalion level MAI course, a regiment level impact, and he's impacting the meth right now. He's so undeniable, and that's something that a lot of people have to understand is that when you face adversity, you can never you don't have the luxury to have an off day. That off day shit where it's like, I'm having a bad day, you don't have that no more. You don't have the luxury to say, oh man, I guess I ain't gonna give it 100%. No, you already have adversity. Yeah. You are already one opportunity of getting kicked out or getting removed. Every day has to be 100%. Every shot you take moving forward has to be the game-winning shot. You know what I mean? You don't have that luxury to come in there and meander through stuff and be like, oh, well, it is what it is. No, you don't. Because your best will be second place at the exact to somebody who has no adversity. So you have to be so fucking undeniable that they have no choice but to pick you. And that's the biggest thing that nobody talks about, because it's hard, dude. Like, that's the hardest thing, because it's like, you got to be above the standard. You have to be above average all the time. You always have to be above.
Well, and as Marines, like, this is just because I understand that this conversation is, we already are expected to kind of be the absolute best, and then you mess up once. Now you have to be the best of the best, 100%. To stand out if you want to get ahead. And it's a lot of pressure. Yeah. And then, which you have not, because you're still active duty, right?
I still am, yes.
And that's super awesome. But then when it goes to transition out, that feeling of trying to always be the best of the best when they're transitioning, sometimes that's not, it doesn't correlate to the civilian world. And that you need to, like, look in yourself and just realize that you are good enough, just the way you are. And it's not just because you were the best of the best in the military, that there's nothing wrong with being just yourself in the civilian world. So, what I will say, my next question would be your podcast. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. What made you decide that that's something that you should start?
Depression. Depression.
Okay.
That's really what it is.
Was it, like, within yourself? Did you see that it was, like, people around you? How was depression affecting you?
So, one of the biggest things when I started podcasting, I got into speaking first. So I was a speaker. But the thing is that, like, being a speaker is like trying to be a rapper. Like, you're not going to get those sold out shows. Like, you got to do small venues with like 12 people. And you also got to record these, and people got to hear you speak. And I was like trying to book, but I was like, all right, well, fuck it. What is another way that people could hear me? So I started a podcast. And the first thing that I did when you started something, I'm pretty sure a lot of people did, I'm pretty sure you did, is that you looked at other podcasts. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, how did their cover out? How is their structure? What is my niche? And then I started sounding like these people. And people were like, damn, this doesn't really sound like you. You know what I mean? Like, it does not sound authentic at all. So then I'm like, well, fuck, man, like, what am I supposed to talk about? During this time that I'm trying to figure this out, it clicked. I was like, well, why don't I just talk about what's going on in my life? And at the time, what's going on in my life is that I'm a great Marine. By the time I started this podcast, I was already a sergeant. You know what I mean? I was a great Marine. I'm talking about the battalion knows who I am. The Marines know who I am. You can't say you can like, hey, if they came in there and said, let me get your best sergeant, they're going to go grab me. But behind closed doors, I also have a drinking problem. Behind closed doors, like I'm constantly thinking about like ending my own life. You know what I mean? Like it's always that thought is just banging in the back of my head, you know? And I always felt like I was never good enough. Like I was constantly always feeling like I was an imposter. And I would drink about it because I felt like no matter what I did, I just felt like there was always like this deep hole within me. I would put my Marines, I would put the organization, I would put everything before my family, you know, like to the point where it was like my family was just a aesthetic to my life. And I'm talking about I'm the first one in, I'm the last one to leave. And I recognized that, and I would beat myself up because I would be like, damn, you're just like your father. You know what I mean? Like, and I would say that to myself a lot. I would be like, damn, you're just like your dad. You know, instead of alcohol, you're just a workaholic. You know what I mean? Instead of, you know, you get mad talking about how you don't care. He didn't care about his family. You don't care either. You know, and I would always drink about that. And I remember one time I woke up to the neighbor's dog barking. That's because I passed out on the patio because I was drunk. And I would just show up to work and nobody would know this about me. And I would just be still, once again, lightning, kicking it, moving Marines. So I put all of that into my podcast. And that's when I started talking about it. And that's what really got me going into podcasting, because podcasting became almost very therapeutic. And I imagine that it's probably like that for you, where you know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy, you know, and I'm talking about
me.
yes, you know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about my own problems, but I'm also vocalizing them. I'm walking myself through them. I'm solving them, you know what I mean? And I legitimately did not think anybody listened to my show. I didn't think anybody would listen to it because I thought I was just complaining. You know what I mean? You know how the Marine Corps, like, as soon as you show some type of sign of like emotional vulnerability, oh, well, stop bitching, you know? So I thought that's what people thought. And no, people actually were like, yo, like, that's what I'm going through. What you just talked about is what I'm going through right now. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, damn, I did not know my pain was so common to everyone.
It's so common. And I do think the first step to fixing it is making it more common to talk about. Seeing someone who is like such, and I'm not like trying to like suck up to you, like a badass that just worked hard to be where they are, to be like vulnerable enough to say, this is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
This is not fun.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and especially being a leader, because when I think staff sergeant, and this is like, if anyone who is a younger rank sees that, or someone from a different, you're an E6, sorry, I probably should have said that too. E6 is staff sergeant in the Marine Corps for those who are not in the Marines. But being younger, when I was a Lance Corporal, I remember my staff sergeants, they were mean.
Yeah.
I was kind of scared of them sometimes, like they were not nice. And to be able to be like a leader, and probably people still respect you and have that, I'm sure they do. But to also be able to be like, I'm a human, and this stuff is not fun. It is like relieving to see that. I saw that you posted something. Did the Sergeant Major give you some sort of recognition?
Yeah, that's crazy. That was crazy. So fast forward, so I started podcasting. Podcasting actually became bigger than me speaking. You know what I mean? Essentially me speaking on stages. And I kind of found out that those two are like one and the same as far as like speaking and podcasting. If you're going to podcast, eventually you would do a live show. And if you're a speaker, you probably are going to be on a podcast. So it's always just one and the same, you know? But one day I ended up getting booked for a women's empowerment symposium. So my brother asked me, he was like, I know, wild. The only male. I'm the only guy. You know what I mean? And it's this phenomenal woman empowerment conference. And I'm just like, how did I get here? I don't know. You know, it was one of those memes where it's like when you lie on your job application, and it's like I'm here though. You know, and I'm about to be an outstanding speaker. And when they sent the flyer back, my brother was like, "Why is it that?" He's like, "You know what the difference between you and them is? And I was like, yeah, like I'm a guy. Like, come on now, I get it. Like, we is like, no, everyone that's there is a published author except for you. I was like, well, I'm a podcaster. He said, once again, everyone there is a published author except for you. I said, bet. The symposium was in August. He told me that, I want to say January. I wrote that book in 2 months. I'm talking about and you gotta think about it. I'm still showing up to work. I'm still doing McMath. I'm still doing MAI courses. I'm still leading Marines. Every night I would come home and type out like at least 2-3 pages, and I would just run it. By July, I launched my first book. And so I launched my first book. That book I did when I was a sergeant in like 2020. So fast forward, my content was always buzzing. And I'm a content creator, so I'm pushing it. And we're at Staff Academy. And, you know, we're sitting in Staff Academy, and I'm pretty sure you've been to it, where they like, all right, sit up front. Sergeant Major's about to come out. And I'm sitting there like, all right, well, let's get into it. He's about to talk about some stuff that, you know, may or may not even relate to me. And he looks in the crowd, right? He's looking in the crowd, scanning it, and he stops. And he looks dead at me and points and says, I know you. And I'm like, what? And now you got to think, like, the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps is recognizing you. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm so done, dude. Like, I knew my time was fucking coming. I knew it. People used to tell me to chill out with my videos, and I knew I was already walking the thin line. This is it. This is it. And I'm happy. I've made peace with whatever is about to happen right now. You know what I mean? I regret nothing. And he's like this. I like your videos. My heart dropped when he said that.
I can't imagine, honestly. Like, you were watching my videos. What?
And you got to think about it. It's nothing but staff NCOs in there, nothing but sergeants in there, nothing but gunnery sergeants. Like, we're packed. And he said it in front of everybody. He did not have to say that. He said it in front of everybody and was like, I like your videos. You know, he's like, I can't like them for obvious reason, but I like your videos. And like, he started talking the whole time. I'm just sitting there like, does the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps just recognize me? Like, did I just get recognized by the Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps for my content? You know, like the same content that everybody used to talk shit to me about, like the same content that people used to be like, oh, I'm a detriment to the Marine Corps because I'm so woke all of a sudden. Like the same content that people used to call me soft for. That's wild. You know, and then I would see him afterwards, and I went to shake his hand and give him my book, and he grabs me, daps me up, and pulls me in and says, I like your fucking videos. And I'm just like, I appreciate that, Sergeant Major. I really appreciate that. That's wild. That's how I was. I was like, I walked away. If there was a camera, it would have saw me jump up in the air and click my heels. I swear to God, when I walked away from everybody else, once I got around the corner, I jumped up and clicked my heels.
That's so funny. Oh gosh, I'm so happy for you. That is like the ultimate, like, yes.
Yeah.
And I love what you're doing, and I do think you kind of spark a movement because I am slowly starting to see more and more male Marines be like, well, okay, when I first started my podcast, I could not find one male Marine that wanted to come talk to me because I was like, it's called Thankme4mycervix, and it's about mental health.
I love that.
Every male Marine was like, no.
I love it. I knew exactly what it was as soon as I saw it. I was like, because I laughed. I was like this. I was like, she named it Thankme4mycervix. I know what that means.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, but I love it because it's because you hear it such in a derogatory way towards, you know, female Marines. So for you to grab it and to take ownership of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then to create space for it is amazing.
Yes, and I think that's kind of my mindset on everything. I never think anything of as an insult. I've embraced the term wooks. Like, I don't even care. Like, it's just, they're just names, they're just words, and if I can make a play on it, I'm going to.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and what's great is I'm getting more and more and more males that are reaching out to me from all the branches and just like, I would love to come on and just talk to you about stuff. And I'm like, okay, yeah, when? For sure, talk whenever you want. Because the more you get to talking about it, people don't even realize, like, just admitting sometimes that out loud that you're not okay can spark like a mindset change.
Yeah.
And
you know, Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
No, you go ahead.
I remember it was one of my most vulnerable episodes. And I imagine like when you're podcasting, there's episodes that hit, but then there's episodes that hit you the most. You know what I mean? And I remember doing that episode, and I just was like, I was trying to be all like, excited on the show, and it just like my social battery just completely dropped right then and there. And I just said it. I was just like, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And I just start talking about it. You know what I mean? Like, and it was actually during like a very one of my like depressive moments where I was just like, I'm not okay. And to say that out loud, it was such a, what's that word? Alleviating. No, it's what's it? It's dang it.
Like relieving.
Relieving. There it is, right there. To be able to say that out loud, because I was like, I'm not, dude. Like, and I'm so tired of faking it. I'm so tired of pretending that I am okay when I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I'm lashing at everybody. I'm always like, I'm constantly drinking. Like, I'm telling y'all to make these changes, but I'm not making any changes. And I'm not okay. And that was like one of my most like vulnerable episodes.
I'm gonna have to listen to that because that sounds like something that I'd be a part of. That sounds. I like that you were able to get that experience by being able to be that vulnerable. What I will add to alcohol in the military, we can talk a little bit about that because I do feel like it's very much like celebrated. It's glorified, drinking, and I do like that you're a leader and you can acknowledge it because that you're like, okay, I have a drinking problem, because a lot of people will not admit that. And what the reason why I say that I think it's a problem is because even like at the Marine Corps birthdays, everybody, I remember seeing like first sergeants getting drunk, like people that I've never, and I'm not a big drinker anymore. I used to be. When I was in the Marine Corps, all I did was drink.
100%.
It's like a culture thing, and it's hard to break. And a lot of times, that's why a lot of times mental health suffers, because alcohol is bad for mental health.
I think one of the biggest things with it is that I hadn't became Meech Speaks just yet, and it's so weird that I say it like that, like as if like Meech Speaks is this alternate person, but I had not became Meech Speaks yet. I was still testing out, learning how to create content. I did not have an elaborate setup when I first started podcasting. So when you listen to my earlier episodes, it will sound like I'm in a fucking closet because that's where I'm at. It will sound like it's a gaming headset because that's what it was. I didn't have like the mics and stuff like that and everything back then. I just was just kicking that heat back then, just like it. But my habits were still the exact same too, So I bring that up because of alcohol. I actually got kicked out of a mess night. Like, and a mess night, everybody's usually drunk.
Yeah.
So we had 30 minutes to get to the mess night. In those 30 minutes, I tried to cram 2 hours worth of alcohol in my body to make up for it. You know what I mean? I tried to expedite my pregame. That is a terrible idea. Highly do not recommend. Every time I see somebody do that, it always goes bad for them. And I pounded like wine real quick. They handed me a beer. I hit the beer real quick.
Oh, you were mixing.
I was mixing everything, like literally just nonstop mixing things. Like it was literally just in my body. So, and you got to think about it. I have this podcast still. You know what I mean? I have just started creating content. I'm telling people to be a better version of themselves. I just walked into a mess night, shit face. And not only am I like messed up, I also like got up in the middle of it. Like while they were talking, I got up in the middle of it and literally had to use the bathroom. Embarrassed everybody. And that's when my command was like, yo, like you might have a drinking problem, bro. Like you don't know how to drink. You just drink for the sake of being drunk. And that's what a lot of people are. Like some people just don't even like to drink. They just drink because there's a end state of a different version of themselves that they want to be around. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like you're about to go to this gathering and the person who you are right now isn't the person that actually you want at the gathering. You want drunk you at the gathering. That's who it is, because drunk you is going to have a great time. And that's exactly what it was a lot of times, like especially socializing in the military. I couldn't do it sober. Like mess nights, balls, like I couldn't do it sober. So I would have to get drunk to do it. And that's when I realized, I was like, one, I do not know how to drink responsibly, and two, I really embarrassed myself. And I remember somebody calling me out on it. They were like, how is Mr. Motivation, Mr. Self-Talk fucking showing up drunk like this? And I was like, wow, you got me. You got me. You got me. Wow, ouch. That one hurt. Wow.
Ow.
Ow. That one was personal. Okay. I'll get my shit together. I'll get it together.
And did you?
Yes. And the wild part about that, and I think this is probably a reason why a lot of people relapse, you know what I mean, is because when you get your shit together, yeah, there's things that you're going to change. You're going to change your habits. But you also have to realize that when you change your habits, you're going to change the people that you allow in your life. And the moment that I started to get my shit together, I started losing so many people in my life. I thought I was doing something wrong. Friends, I couldn't hang out with them no more. Or let me rephrase, they didn't want to hang out with me no more. They said I was acting different. And these were the same friends that were telling me that I needed to get my act together. But the thing is that your friends can tell you to get your shit together, but if they're not going to get their shit together, one of y'all is going to separate from the other. Yep. You know? And did my personal life start getting better? 100%. Did like my career start becoming better? Yes, it did. Did I start finding peace in the military? I did, but I lost a lot of people to the point where it was like I felt so alone. And it was during that time where I was getting my shit together where I would talk about how alone I felt. And I felt unbelievably alone because I was like, I couldn't drink with everybody like that again. I didn't want to sit, right, you know, because a lot of times like we sit, drink, and complain about our work week or complain about our lives. And I didn't want to do that no more. I just didn't. I wanted to change how my life was. I didn't want to drink about it, you know. And once I started getting my shit together and becoming this version of me, it was so weird because I felt so alone.
Yeah. I love that you keep saying like this version of me because I often feel like I've gone through phases throughout my life. Yeah. And unfortunately, because I have had trauma in some of them, I don't even remember parts of who I used to be, or I even see old pictures of myself and I'm like, who is that? And not even just because I didn't like my appearance, but just because I remember how unhappy I was. And no one knew. Like I didn't feel like I needed to tell anybody because I felt like I was like okay. Sometimes I just felt like null or like numb. And I didn't realize at that time that it was just like when I was drinking a lot of alcohol and it was like numbing it to the point where I just didn't have to face it, and that's why I liked alcohol.
You know what's so crazy is that there was a TikTok, I think like a trend, and it was like, name a time where you were at your lowest and nobody knew. And you know what I'm talking about? And it played in the background. And I remember like I found this video of me in front of like a whole bunch of Marines and I was kicking some tire and you could tell like I'm motivated, you know, moving around. I'm really kicking it. I'm kicking it. That night, literally, I had like tried to kill myself.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like that night, like I had tried, like, and I backed out of it, you know, and I just backed out, you know, and nobody knew. And I never wanted to talk about it because I didn't want to talk about it for the simple fact of how we treated mental health in the military in general. It almost felt like we weaponized mental health and you didn't want to feel ostracized. Like I didn't want people to think because I had things going on in my life that I wasn't able to do my job. I didn't want people to start thinking less of me. I didn't want people to look at me as incompetent. I didn't want people to, because look how we treat Marines that are on light duty. You know, you could be great. But if you end up, I ain't gonna say light duty because light duty's on like it's like a week or two.
Yeah.
But you end up on limited duty, you can't go to the field. You can't run with us no more. Your body can't do, you're almost obsolete. And then you start to put on the weight. Oh my God. Like, who cares that you were the best Marine a month ago? Who cares? And I would see that. Not only did I see that, but I've done it. I'm not going to sit here on my high horse and act like I wasn't one of those people. Yeah, that version of me was one of those people. In fact, that version of me probably was the one that was leading the charge for it. You know what I mean? But when I realized that and I realized those things about myself, I did not want anybody to know that about me. I did not. And what really made me get my shit together the most, and I think it was like the nail in the coffin. I had a corporal, and I asked him, man, I was like, dude, like, why are you getting out, bro? Like, why are you getting out? Like, you're good, bro. Like, you would do amazing here. And he said, to be honest with you, man, like, he was like, I remember one time I pulled up and to the parking lot, and it was very early. And I don't think you saw that I was there, but I saw you. And I saw you with your head on your steering wheel. And you can tell that, like, you looked like you were crying. And fucking, then you just got yourself together and then you went into work. And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about because that did happen. And I acted like nothing was wrong with me. I acted like nothing was wrong with me. The whole time I had a whole breakdown in the parking lot. And I thought that nobody saw that. And he did. And he was like, that's the reason why I'm actually getting out. Because I don't want to end up like that.
So your story made me think of a story, a quick one. Being in this area, I still meet a lot of Marines. I talk to a lot of them. And I've had a listener specifically reach out to me and was like, can you talk to higher ups about how therapy can be beneficial, that it should be more of a mandatory thing that people should go to therapists, because a lot of times Marines can get negative pros and cons for. I've never personally seen this. I guess
I've never personally seen it either, and I know for a fact you can't do that.
Right?
You know, I know for a fact you cannot do that. You know what I mean? Like, you cannot hold if they go to seek mental health or anything like that. You can't give them adverse pros and cons because they, so.
I guess they can use it as, like a weapon to be like, because of these things, I don't know. I feel like, why would you say Marines may be afraid to go to therapy just for the actual, like, reputation of being weak?
I wouldn't say from the pros and cons situation. One, because I'm not fully, I haven't had to do pros and cons in a couple of years, but I am going to familiarize myself with that so that way I can know. But also, I do know for a fact you can't do that. Like, I do know for a fact you can't do. But
that's like medical clearance stuff. They can't use that. That's like medical stuff. They can't hold that against
you. You're about to give me a 4-0 because I twist my ankle? That's crazy.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? But the reason why I know a lot of Marines wouldn't want to go to mental health is because look at the stigma that was associated, especially during our time frame, because me and you were actually in during the same time, and because you got out in 2015, yeah?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So then me and you were actually the exact same period. Me and you probably were Dream Marines together at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, especially if we were on Pendleton, we probably walked by because you were in by like 2010, 2011 time frame, yeah? Okay, I
joined in 2011, January of 2011.
Okay, so yeah, 100%. Me and you were Lance Corporals together at some point, and we walked by each other. But they used to say the wizard. You know what I mean? If you go to the wizard, they're going to take your rifle. They're going to get you out of here. Who would want to go there? You know what I mean? You go to the wizard, you're getting out of here. And look how we treated that. Look how we were already treating Marines that would show up on light duty. Marines that showed up on limited duty. Like, you think that a Marine is actually going to take care of their mental health when they thug out physical pain on a regular basis? You know what I mean? Like, literally, like, how many times have we seen somebody that had a pre-existing injury that they just kept pushing through on it? They kept walking on it. They kept doing things on it. And then to the point where it's like, bro, you're 22 years old and you have to walk around with a cane. That is wild. That is wild.
It's crazy. And then, because they didn't go to the doctors for it while they were in, and there's no paper trail, they try to get the benefits that they deserve when they get out, like from the VA, and they can't do it because they never even went to the doctor.
There's no track record for that. You know what I mean? Like, there was no track record for that. And it's like, dude, like, but then again, though, you never went to medical because you wanted to be an asset. That's what it was. You were more worried about being an asset than you did caring about yourself. And I know that feeling because that was me.
Oh, that's every Marine. That's the mindset that in boot camp, they kind of drew that into your head. It's a team. You're a team. Marine Corps, you're a brotherhood. All of us matter as one. We are all one. And then, you don't have that mindset, like, I need to worry about myself, because that's not who you're thinking about. I am one with everybody. But in reality, when it comes time to get out, you are just you. And the only person that's there for you is you.
I think the biggest thing that you really have to take into consideration, especially when you look at a team, is that when you're on a team, everybody depends on you to know your role, to play your role. But if you're not taking care of yourself, how can you play your role? And, when they say, like, oh, you got to take care of the Marines, like, when they say take care of the Marines, they're also talking about you, too. Like, you're also one of the Marines that needs to get taken care of. And if you don't take care of yourself, then how can you be an asset? You know what I mean? Like, if you're constantly compartmentalizing your own issues, but then you get surprised when you blow up over the smallest inconvenience. Yeah, because you're going through a divorce and you're not talking about that. You're not even going to therapy about that. You're dealing with some issues back home. You're dealing with some personal problems. You're dealing with so many other things, and then you're taking it out at work. You're short at work. You're not focused at work.
Yes.
You're showing up late to work because there's so much going on in your life. So I can't stress that enough, that you have to be able to take care of yourself, especially if you want to be able to take care of other people.
I love that. We need more leaders that think the way that you do, because you are the leader that I wish that I had, like, in the Marine Corps, because I feel like I probably would have stayed longer.
To be honest with you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. No, yeah, and it makes me happy to think that now there are Marines that are getting the leadership that they need, and I'm hoping that more people can see your messages, and you can, like, make that change, because I think that you're really leading a good change.
100%. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Before we go, because we are getting to that hour mark, I just want to make sure that you can tell everybody where to follow you, where they can listen, where they can support you, all that fun stuff.
100%. So first things first, follow me on Instagram at Meech Speaks. Once again, it's just Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled Meech. And then you can follow me also on TikTok, which is also Meech Speaks. You can also follow me on YouTube, which is also Meech Speaks. And then if you want to hear more on my topics, please do not hesitate to head on over to the Talkin Crazy Podcast. That's talking without the G. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube, Google, anywhere that you can stream a podcast, I am there.
Thank you so much. Well, our audio will be on Thank Me for My Cervix as well on Tuesday. So
I look forward to it. I can't wait.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. You are truly an inspiration, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you. All right. Talk to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.